I'm basic, I have a bookshelf. This sounds like the perfect challenge for me. Hello friends, my name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I am doing a video that I saw on Jessethereader's channel called the Basic Bookshelf Test, and I was like, hey, I'm basic, I have a bookshelf, this sounds like the perfect challenge for me. Regardless though, I saw it and watched the video and thought it was super fun, and also wanted to see how many books I had on his list that were considered basic, because I feel like I kind of have a very mainstream taste when it comes to books, because a lot of my favorites are like YA fantasy books, and so a lot of those are very mainstream reads. So I was like, maybe there's some that I like that aren't as mainstream, but like I want to see just how basic I am. So the way this is gonna work is that I have 25 books. In his video he had 24, but I didn't like the number 24, so I added one more to make it 25, and I'm gonna count the books on my bookshelves that I either own or don't physically own but have read at one point or another. I know this is a super random video, but like without further ado, let's just jump in to see how basic my bookshelf is. First up, we have the selection, and I'm not gonna take all the books down because that's far too much work, but I do have the whole series plus like 2 additional short story collections. But yeah, I definitely own this section. I actually just finished rereading the first 3 books like a couple weeks ago, so I definitely have read this book. I definitely own it. I definitely love it a lot and would recommend it if you're interested into like some The Bachelor meets dystopian stuff. So definitely would recommend it. It's amazing. Next up is A Darker Shade of Magic, and yes, I own this whole series. You can kind of see I have a V.E. Schwab shelf over here, but yes, I definitely own this series and love it so much. It's actually my favorite series right now, and I'm actually planning on rereading it either in the month of June or July, just whenever I get to it, but I want to reread it because it is my favorite, and so I want to just jump back into this world. Maybe I'll make a video on it, I don't know, but I love this series so much. It is an adult fantasy book, and that's why I was kind of surprised to see it on his list, because I think everything else on his list was YA, and so I thought by liking this book it was a little bit different, but no, it's pretty popular. It's a great series and my favorite, and would definitely recommend it if you're interested in some like new fantasy magical worlds. This book is fantastic. Alright, 2 for 2 so far. Next up is 6 of Crows, and technically I have this book on hand with you right now because I was borrowing it from my school library, but I have yet to read it, so I'm not gonna count this as a point. I'm gonna read this book. I'm planning to within the first 2 weeks of June. I'm thinking to finally get to this book, but I haven't read it yet, so unfortunately I cannot count it as a book that I have read quite yet. Number 4, we have The Cruel Prince. Yes, I own The Cruel Prince, and I actually own the whole trilogy, and I love this trilogy so much. I read this book, I believe, sometime in 2019, and then ended up reading the next 2 books in January of this year. I loved this series so much. This book, I don't care how basic it is, I will back this book till I'm on death's row. This book is fantastic. The main protagonist, Jude Duarte, has my heart. Prince Carden, he is kind of like messed up a bit, but like we also stan him as well. I am proud to like this book because I think everyone just needs to read this book because it's so good. Next up, in place number 5, we have Shadowhunters. And yes, I do own the first Shadowhunters book. I have read the first 3 books in the Shadowhunters series twice, but I've never made it past then, and I've never been really wowed in my experience with reading these books. I know the series is well loved by a lot, especially the Infernal Devices, but I have yet to dive into the world of Shadowhunters, and I honestly doubt I will, but who knows, maybe one day, but since I have read this book in the past, I get the point. Next up is number 6, which is the Matched series. Now, I actually have read book 1 and 2, so I have read those books at some point or another. I just don't physically own them because I read them on my iPad back in the day, so I am counting it though because I have read them. In number 7, we have the Hush Hush series, and honestly, I have like briefly heard about this series like every so often, but I've never even thought to pick it up or even look at what it's really about, so I highly doubt I'm ever gonna read this or own it, but like if you like it, then good for you. In number 8, we have Throne of Glass, and just to answer the question, yes, I have these books. Oh, that's so heavy. Oh my god, I see the dust flying everywhere now. Awesome. Actually, me and my friend Caitlin are buddy reading this series together, and so far we have gotten through Throne of Glass and Crowd of Midnight together. She has already read the prequel, The Assassin's Blade, but I'm gonna finish that by the end of the month, so that way starting June 1st or beginning of June, we can start moving on to the next books. I've heard the series gets better and better the more you read, so next time we're gonna be reading Heir of Fire, and I'm really hoping to be blown away and to really just like it because the books have been good so far, but nothing like life-changing so far, you know? In number 9, we have John Green Books. books, just any of the books he has written. So I actually own 2 John Green books. I own The Fault in Our Stars because it's just a classic that I think people have. And I didn't even really like this book that much, but I still have it. Don't really know why. And I also own this little cute mini version of Paper Towns. Like, look how small it is, like, compared to my hand. Like, that's adorable. I've yet to read it, but I own it because it's adorable. And that's all I have to say. I know these cute mini versions come in a lot of different books. The Throne of Glass series actually got released as like a mini version, which is adorable, but I've yet to read this and I didn't like this one, so I don't really know what that says about me, but like, I'm counting it. In place number 10, we have a Harry Potter. Now, you can see this, I think. These 2 shelves here are entirely dedicated to Harry Potter things. So this top one is Harry Potter. This one here is Fantastic Beasts. And I am not gonna go pick up the whole series that I own because that just too much effort. But I do own Harry Potter. I actually own 2 Ravenclaw special editions as well as the full series. I do have a problem, yes, we know that by now, but I do want to reread the Harry Potter series probably sometime this year because I want to do like formal reviews on all the books, maybe just a series review, because I've been wanting to document my thoughts on them for a while, and honestly I don't really remember the last time I read them fully, so I'm due for a reread, maybe sometime in the coming months. In number 11, we have Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. And yes, I do own this book. I actually got like 25% of the way through this book. It was the first book I ever tried to annotate, and I ended up giving up and never picking it back up. I probably should read it because I feel like I'd like it, but I just never have. But I do own it, so I'm counting it. In number 12, we have Twilight. I actually do own this book. I got it at this bookstore by my cottage called Barely Used Books, and I think I got it for like just a couple dollars, so I found it pretty good because I was like, maybe I will actually read this book finally. I probably won't like it because I think most people just like this series now for the nostalgic stuff and the like guilty pleasureness of it, but now that apparently there's a new book coming out, maybe I'll actually read it finally, but I haven't read it yet, but I do own it. Number 13 is any Sarah Dessen books, and honestly when he said this I didn't even really know who that is. I think she's a contemporary author, don't really know, but I have not read any of her books, so that's a big fat 0 from me. Number 14 is Lord of the Rings. I think that I kind of missed the major hype of this series. I don't really know because not that many people were talking about it as I was growing up, other than like the movies and such, so I never actually have read the books. I know they're iconic, so I probably should read them, but I don't really have any desire to read them as of right now, so that's a big 0 from me. Number 15 is To All the Boys I Loved Before. I actually do own this book and the second book as well, and actually reread them recently, earlier this year, I believe in February, because of the movies, and I did not like the first book all that much. I liked the second book a little bit more, but I loved the movies, so that has to count for something. So yeah, I have read this book and the second book, not yet the third though. Number 16, we have Roald Dahl books. I think I might have grown up reading some of his books, but I honestly don't really remember, and I also know that I don't own any of his books, so I'm not gonna count it because I don't even know that was the specific books that he has written, so I'm just gonna say this is a no from me, so oh well. Number 17 is Perks of Being a Wallflower. I have not read the book, so that makes it pretty simple. I've heard that it's a really good book, and so I feel like I should pick it up at like some point or another. I just have yet to so far in my life, but maybe I will one day if I get the sudden desire to. Number 18 is Divergent. Now, I'm not gonna go all the way downstairs because my family has a bookcase and my Divergent series is down there, and I own all 4 books. I've read them multiple times over, so I definitely do own the series, and I actually do want to reread Divergent, at least the first book, because people have been saying that the books have been going downhill for like the last year, so I want to see if my opinions on the books will still be the same or if they'll change. So I want to do that, and I do own the books, so I'm counting it. Number 19 is Beautiful Creatures. I think again I kind of missed the hype train on this book a little bit because like, I don't know, it was never that popular. I remember this one girl was reading it in like grade 7, but I never really cared that much to read it myself or had that much interest in it, so that's a big 0 from me for this one. Number 20 is 13 Reasons Why. I actually do own this book, and I read it once a couple years ago. I got this book I think just as the Netflix series was coming out, but I didn't even know it was a Netflix series. I just picked it for the book itself because I thought it sounded interesting. However, upon like looking more into issues and stuff, I realized it's probably not the best book to be reading or show to be watching just because of the content itself it has. But like, I don't know. I don't really know how to comment on this book because it's been like 4 years, I think, since I've read it. But yeah, I'm counting it because I have read it at some point or another. For number 21, we have The Maze Runner, and that again is downstairs on my family's bookcase, so I'm not gonna go get it. I do own the 4 books out of the 5 books that are out, I believe, and I have read the original trilogy. I could not get through the Kill Order for whatever reason, but I do own it, and I liked the movies a lot, I liked the books, and I enjoyed my time reading it, so I'm definitely counting that. This series kind of holds a special place in my heart, if not for the books, for the movies more or less, because I remember watching the first movie in my best friend's basement at her like birthday party, and then me, her, and like 3 others went to the theater when the second movie came out, and then me and her went to go see The Death Cure when that came out in the theaters. So we've kind of built a bond with this series. It was kind of some lit times. Number 22 is To Kill a Mockingbird. I know a lot of people say they have to read this for school, and it was an option for me to read in grade 9, but I ended up choosing a different book to read instead. I actually ended up reading Uglies instead, which is also a pretty popular book, I think, or at least at some point or another in time it was, but I never have read this book, and I don't really have any desire to because I haven't heard that many great things about it anyways, so I might just take a pass. Number 23 is Anna and the French Kiss. I'm actually surprised I have not yet read this book because I know it's a really popular contemporary book. Again, I don't really read contemporary as much as I tend to read like fantasy and stuff like that, but I think it's kind of an iconic contemporary book that I probably should pick up at some point or another, but I have yet to now. And number 24 is Little Women, and I actually do own this book, I just have yet to read it. I know the movie came out back in December and it looked interesting, so maybe I'll finally pick up the book. Classics have never really been my thing, but who knows? Maybe one day I'll pick this series up and it will be my thing. But as of right now, I own the book but have not read it. And finally, I decided to add one more book onto this list because 24 was just a weird number. I wanted to make it 25. So I added Red Queen onto this list. And as you can see here, I do own the Red Queen series, and I own 2 special editions and 2 paperback versions of the hardcover series I already have because I wanted to annotate them, and this is the book I've annotated the most, like literally ever. And so yeah, I definitely have read this book. I love it a lot, and I'm actually planning on rereading it sometime within the coming 2 to 3 months. And like Harry Potter, I haven't read these books in a while, and so I kind of want to reread them a bit and see how my opinions on them have changed, grown to love them more, etc, etc. Anyway, so that is the basic bookshelf test. I think that I actually got 16 out of 25 correct, which is a 64%, but I did pass this test. I'm not sure if that's a flex or not, but like, hey, here we are. Anyways, I do think a lot of my book tastes are quite mainstream, but I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that because as long as I'm enjoying the books that I'm reading, I think that's all that matters. And then you also have more people to talk about the books with, so it's kind of like a win-win all the way around. Shout out to Jesse the Reader for starting this video so I could do it as well. I'll link his video down below in the description. And yeah, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below if you have read any of the books on this list, if you liked them or not, and just let me know your thoughts. Anyways, I will see you all very soon in a new video. So until then, bye.